On a warm, dreamy afternoon, a little girl named Alice sat beside her sister on the riverbank. Her sister was reading a dull book with no pictures or conversations in it, and Alice's eyes began to wander. She was sleepy and bored when suddenly, a white rabbit with pink eyes ran by, muttering, oh dear, I shall be late." That was unusual enough, but when the rabbit pulled a watch from its waistcoat pocket and hurried off, Alice jumped up in surprise. Burning with curiosity, she ran after it, across the field and straight into a rabbit hole under the hedge. The hole went down and down like a deep well. The walls were lined with shelves, maps, and jars of marmalade. Alice fell slowly, almost floating, wondering if she might fall right through the earth. At last, she landed softly on a heap of dry leaves in a long hallway full of doors. All the doors were locked. On a glass table she found a tiny golden key, but it fit only a small door behind a curtain. Peeking through, she saw a beautiful garden filled with bright flowers and fountains. The doorway was far too small for her to enter. Then she noticed a little bottle with a label that said, "Drink me." Alice hesitated, but it smelled delicious, so she drank. Instantly, she began to shrink until she was no taller than a doll. Now she could fit through the door, but the key was still on the table, far above her reach. Next she found a small cake marked, "Eat me." Hoping it would make her grow again, she took a bite. This time she grew and grew until her head hit the ceiling. Now she was far too big for the tiny door. Frustrated and frightened, she burst into tears, and her huge tears formed a pool around her feet. After a while, the magical drink and cake effects faded, and she shrank again, tumbling into her own pool of tears. She swam with a mouse and other small animals, a duck, a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet. They decided to hold a caucus race, running in circles until everyone was declared a winner. The dodo solemnly gave Alice her own thimble as a prize. But when she mentioned her cat Dinah, the animals fled in terror, leaving her alone once more. Just then, the white rabbit reappeared, muttering about his duchess being angry. He dropped his gloves and fan. Alice picked them up, and suddenly she began shrinking again until she was the size of a mouse. Trapped in a small house, she tried eating another cake and shot up to gigantic size, her arms and legs poking out the windows. The frightened rabbit sent a crowd of animals to drive her out. They threw pebbles that turned into little cakes. Alice ate one and shrank back down, escaping into the woods. There she met a caterpillar sitting on a mushroom, smoking a hookah. "Who are you?" he asked lazily. Alice hardly knew anymore. Her size changed so often she could scarcely tell. The caterpillar told her that one side of the mushroom would make her grow, and the other side would make her shrink. Carefully breaking off 2 pieces, she discovered he was right. At last, she could control her size. Wandering further, she came upon a house with a fish footman delivering an invitation to a frog footman. Inside, the Duchess was nursing a screaming baby while the kitchen filled with pepper from the cook's soup. The Cheshire Cat, with a wide grin, lounged nearby. The Duchess tossed the baby to Alice, but it turned into a pig, snorting in her arms. She let it run off into the forest. Soon Alice met the Cheshire Cat again, grinning down from a tree branch. "Which way ought I go from here?" she asked. "That depends," said the cat, "on where you want to get to." "I don't much care where." "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," he purred. He told her she could visit the Mad Hatter or the March Hare, both equally mad. His grin lingered in the air even after the rest of him vanished, leaving Alice laughing nervously. At the March Hare's house, she found a long table set under a tree, where the March Hare, the Mad Hatter, and a Dormouse were having tea. "No room! No room!" they cried, though plenty of chairs were empty. The tea party was chaos. Riddles with no answers, cups moving constantly, and time itself stuck at 6 o'clock. The Hatter dipped his watch in tea. The Hare smeared butter on it. The Dormouse kept falling asleep in the sugar bowl. When Alice tried to leave, the Hatter called after her, "We haven't even finished the riddle." But she was already gone. In a shady wood she found a small door inside a tree. Using her mushroom pieces, she adjusted her size and stepped through, into the beautiful garden she had seen at the start. There she met playing card gardeners painting white roses red because they had planted the wrong color. Suddenly, trumpets sounded. The Queen of Hearts arrived with her court. The king, courtiers, soldiers shaped like cards, and the white rabbit as herald. The queen was fierce and loud, shouting "Off with their heads!" at the slightest offense. When she saw Alice, she demanded, "Who are you?" "My name is Alice, your majesty," she replied politely. "Can you play croquet?" "Yes, if it pleases you." Soon Alice found herself in a ridiculous croquet game where the balls were hedgehogs, the mallets flamingos, and the arches soldiers bending over. The queen stormed about, ordering executions every minute, but no one ever carried them out. In the confusion, Alice noticed the Cheshire Cat appearing again, its grin floating above the ground. The queen ordered it beheaded, but since the cat's body was missing, no one could decide how. By the time they argued, the cat vanished completely. Next, Alice met the Mock Turtle and the Griffin, who told her tales of nonsense and sang the famous lobster quadrille. Alice laughed, danced a little, and listened politely, though she could hardly make sense of their absurd logic. Then a cry rang out, "The trial is about to begin!" The Griffin hurried her off to a courtroom, where the Knave of Hearts was accused of stealing the Queen's tarts. The king was judge, the White Rabbit acted as herald, and the jury was made entirely of animals. The courtroom buzzed with nonsense. Witnesses included the Mad Hatter and the cook, both babbling about tea and pepper. Finally, the Queen shouted, "Sentence first, verdict afterwards." Alice, growing bolder, cried out, "Nonsense! You're nothing but a pack of cards." At that, the cards rose into the air and flew at her like a storm. She screamed, brushing them away, and suddenly woke up on the riverbank, her head resting on her sister's lap. The leaves rustled gently in the breeze. There were no rabbits, no queens, no talking cats, only the warm afternoon sunlight. Her sister smiled. "You were dreaming again, dear Alice." Alice sat up, still half lost in wonder. She told her sister all about the strange adventures, the shrinking and growing, the tea party, the Queen's croquet ground. Her sister listened, smiling at the imagination of it all. As Alice ran off home for tea, her sister remained seated, dreaming of her little sister's curious world, where animals spoke, logic twisted into riddles, and every impossible thing was delightfully possible.